Juan Manuel Fangio, nicknamed El Chueco or El Maestro, was a racing car driver from Argentina, who dominated the first decade of Formula One racing, winning the World Drivers' Championship 5 times. From childhood, he abandoned his studies to pursue auto mechanics. In 1938, he debuted in Turismo Carretera, competing in a Ford V8. In 1940, he competed with Chevrolet, winning the Grand Prix International Championship and devoted his time to the Argentine Turismo Carretera, becoming its champion, a title he successfully defended a year later. Fangio then competed in Europe between 1947 to 1949, where he achieved further success. He won the World Championship of Drivers 5 times, a record which stood for 46 years until beaten by Michael Schumacher with 4 different teams, a feat that has not been repeated. A member of the Formula One Hall of Fame, he is regarded by many as one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time and holds the highest winning percentage in Formula One, 46.15%, winning 24 of 52 Formula One races he entered. Fangio is the only Argentine driver to have won the Argentine Grand Prix, having won it 4 times in his career, the most of any driver. After retirement, Fangio presided as the honorary president of Mercedes-Benz Argentina from 1987, a year after the inauguration of his museum, until his death in 1995. In 2011, on the centenary of his birth, Fangio was remembered around the world and various activities were held on the occasion of his birthday. Early life: Fangio's grandfather Giuseppe Fangio emigrated to Buenos Aires in 1887. Giuseppe managed to buy his own farm near Balcarce within 3 years by cutting and burning tree branches to transform them into charcoal fuel. His father Loreto emigrated to Argentina from the small, central Italian town of Castiglione Messa Marino. His mother Herminia da Copyright was from Tornrexio. Both parents are from the Chieti province, of the Abruzzo region, and married on October 24, 1903. They lived on farms where Herminia was a housekeeper and Loreto worked in the building trade, becoming an apprentice stonemason. Fangio was born on San Juan's Day 1911 at 12:10 a.m. in Balcarce, a small city in southern Buenos Aires province, Argentina. His birth certificate was mistakenly dated June 23 by the Register of Balcarce. He was the 4th of 6 children. In his childhood he became known as El Chueco, the bandy-legged one, for his skill in bending his left leg around the ball to shoot on goal during football games. Fangio started his education at the school No. 4 of Balcarce, Cali 13, before transferring to school No. 1 and 18 Uriburu Avenue. When Fangio was 13, he dropped out of school and worked as an assistant mechanic. When he was 16, he started out riding as a mechanic for his employer's customers. Fangio also developed pneumonia, which almost proved fatal. This developed after a football game where Fangio had been hard at running and the effects caused a sharp pain in his chest. He was bedridden for 2 months and cared for by his mother. After recovering, Fangio served compulsory military service at the age of 21. In 1932, he was enlisted at the Campo de Mayo Cadet School near Buenos Aires. His driving skills caught the attention of his commanding officer to appoint Fangio as his official driver. Fangio was discharged before his 22nd birthday after taking his final physical examination. He returned to Balcarce, where he aimed to further his football career. Fangio, along with his friend Jose Copyright, received offers to play at a club based in March del Plata. Their teammates at Balcarce suggested the two work on Fangio's hobby of building his own car, and his parents donated a part of a small section of their home where a rudimentary shed was built. Early racing career. He began his racing career in Argentina in 1934, driving a 1929 Ford Model A which he had rebuilt. During his time racing in Argentina, he drove Chevrolet cars and was Argentine national champion in 1940 and 1941. He first came to Europe to race in 1948, funded by the Argentine Automobile Club and the Argentine government. In the tourism highway category, Fangio participated in his first race between October 18 to October 30, 1938 as the co-pilot of Luis Finocchietti. Despite not winning Argentine Road Grand Prix, Fangio drove most of the way and qualified in 7th place. In November of that year, the competition called the 400 kilometers of Tres Arroyos in which he enrolled, was suspended due to a fatal accident. In 1939, the circuit was in Forest, conforming well his last involvement with a Ford V8. With Hector Thierry as accompanist, in that year led a Chevrolet and Turismo Carretera, competing for the Argentine Grand Prix. Suspended by a strong rain, resumed in Córdoba, where he managed their first victory, winning the 4th stage from Catamarca to San Juan. On October, after 9,500 kilometers competition in Argentina, Bolivia and Peru, won his first race in Turismo Carretera, winning the Grand Prix International North. He qualified TC Argentine champion, the first ever driving a Chevrolet. In 1941 beat Oscar Lvez in the Grand Prix Getúlio Vargas in Brazil. For the second time, was crowned champion of Argentine TC. In 1942 the pilot ended South Grand Prix in 10th place in accordance with the general classification. In April won the race Mar y Sierras, and had to suspend the mechanical activity due to the start of World War II. In 1946, after a brief period of inactivity, returned to racing with 2 races in Morecubden and Tandil driving a Ford T. In February 1947, competed at National Mechanics in the circuit retirement and March 1 started the race for Rosario City Award. Subsequently, triumphed in the circuit double back window race. Formula One racing. Overview: Fangio, unlike later Formula One drivers, started his racing career at a mature age and was the oldest driver in many of his races. During his career, drivers raced with almost no protective equipment on circuits with no safety features. Fangio had no compunction about leaving a team, even after a successful year or even during a season, if he thought he would have a better chance with a better car. As was then common, several of his race results were shared with teammates after he took over their car during races when his own had technical problems. His rivals included Alberto Ascari, Giuseppe Farina and Sterling Moss. Throughout his career, Fangio was backed by funding from the Argentine government of Juan Perón. World Championship successes. Fangio's first entry into Grand Prix racing came in the 1948 French Grand Prix at Reims, where he started his Simca Gordini from 11th on the grid but retired. He did not drive in F1 again until the following year at San Remo, but having upgraded to a Maserati 4CLT/48 sponsored by the Automobile Club of Argentina, he dominated the event, winning both heats to take the aggregate win by almost a minute over Prince Baira. Fangio entered a further 6 Grand Prix races in 1949, winning 4 of them against top-level opposition. For the first World Championship of Drivers in 1950, Fangio was taken on by the Alfa Romeo team alongside Farina and Luigi Fagili. With competitive racing machinery following the Second World War still in short supply, the pre-war Alfettas proved dominant. Fangio won each of the 3 races he finished, but Farina's 3 wins and a 4th place allowed him to take the title. In 1950's non-championship races, Fangio took a further 4 wins and 2 seconds from 8 starts. Fangio won 3 more championship races for Alfa in 1951 in the Swiss, French and Spanish Grands Prix, and with the improved Ferraris taking points off his teammates, Fangio took the title in the final race, 6 points ahead of Ascari. With the 1952 World Championship being run to Formula 2 specifications, Alfa Romeo were unable to use their supercharged Alfettas and withdrew. As a result, the defending champion found himself without a car for the first race of the championship and remained absent from F1 until June, when he drove the British BRM 516 in non-championship F1 races at Albi and Dundrod. Fangio had agreed to drive for Maserati in a non-championship race at Monza the day after the Dundrod race, but having missed a connecting flight he decided to drive through the night from Paris, arriving half an hour before the start. Badly fatigued, Fangio started the race from the back of the grid but lost control on the second lap, crashed into a grass bank, and was thrown out of the car as it flipped end over end. He was taken to hospital with multiple injuries, the most serious being a broken neck, and spent the rest of 1952 recovering in Argentina. In Europe, and back to full racing fitness in 1953, Fangio rejoined Maserati for the championship season, and against the dominant Ferraris led by Ascari he took a lucky win at Monza. Fangio qualified second with Bonetto seventh, and Fangio set fastest lap on his way to a 1.4-second victory over Nino Farina while Bonetto retired out of fuel. Along with that win, Fangio secured 3 second places to finish second in the championship, and also came third first time out in the Targa Florio. He ended 1953 in a Lancia D24 winning the Carrera Panamericana in record time. In 1954 Fangio raced for Maserati until Mercedes-Benz entered competition in mid-season. Winning 8 out of 12 races in that year, he continued to race with Mercedes a Euro driving the W196 Monoposto Euro in 1955 in a team that included Stirling Moss. For 1955, Fangio subjected himself to training program which was strenuous in an effort to keep up his fitness levels high which was comparable to his younger rivals. At the end of the second successful season Mercedes withdrew from racing and after 4 attempts, Fangio never raced at Le Mans again. In 1956 Fangio moved to Ferrari to win his 4th title. Enzo Ferrari and Fangio did not have a very warm relationship, despite their shared success. Fangio took over his teammates' cars after he suffered mechanical problems in 3 races, the Argentine, Monaco and Italian Grand Prix. In each case the points were shared between the 2 drivers. At the season-ending Italian Grand Prix, Fangio's Ferrari teammate Peter Collins, who was in a position to win the World Championship with just 15 laps to go, handed over his car to Fangio. They shared the 6 points won for second place, giving Fangio the world title. In 1957 Fangio returned to Maserati, who was still using the same iconic 250F which Fangio had driven at the start of 1954. Fangio started the season with a hat-trick of wins in Argentina, Monaco and France, before retiring with engine problems in Britain. At the next race, the German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring circuit, Fangio needed to extend his lead by 6 points to claim the title with 2 races to spare. From pole position Fangio dropped to third behind the Ferraris of Hawthorn and Collins but managed to get past both by the end of the 3rd lap. Fangio had started with half-full tanks since he expected that he would need new tyres halfway through the race. In the event Fangio pitted on lap 13 with a 30-second lead, but a disastrous stop left him back in 3rd place and 50 seconds behind Collins and Hawthorn. Fangio came into his own, setting one fastest lap after another, culminating in a record-breaking time on lap 20, a full 11 seconds faster than the best the Ferraris could do. On the penultimate lap Fangio got back past both Collins and Hawthorn, and held on to take the win by just over 3 seconds. With Maestro finishing down in 4th place, Fangio claimed his 5th title. This performance is often regarded as the greatest drive in Formula One history, and it was to be Fangio's last win. After his series of consecutive championships he retired in 1958, following the French Grand Prix. Such was the respect for Fangio, that during that final race, race leader Hawthorn had lapped Fangio and as Hawthorn was about to cross the line, he braked and allowed Fangio through so he could complete the 50-lap distance in his final race. He would cross the line over 2 minutes down on Hawthorn. He won 24 World Championship Grands Prix from 52 entries, a winning percentage of 46.15%, the best in the sport's history. Kidnapping. The Batista dictatorship of Cuba established the non-Formula One Cuban Grand Prix in 1957. Fangio won the 1957 event, and had set fastest times during practice for the 1958 race. On February 23, 1958, 2 unmasked gunmen of Fidel Castro's 26th of July movement entered the Hotel Lincoln in Havana and kidnapped Fangio at gunpoint. Local police set up roadblocks at intersections, and guards were assigned to private and commercial airports and to all competing drivers. Fangio was taken to 3 separate houses. His captors allowed him to listen to the race via radio, bringing a television for him to witness reports of a disastrous crash after the race concluded. In the 3rd house, Fangio was allowed his own bedroom but became convinced that a guard was standing outside of the bedroom door at all hours. The captors talked about their revolutionary program, which Fangio had not wished to speak about as he did not have an interest in politics. Fangio was released after 29 hours and he remained a good friend of his captors afterwards. The captors' motives were to force the cancellation of the race in an attempt to embarrass the Batista regime. After Fangio was released, many Cubans were convinced that Batista was losing his power because he failed to track the captors down. The Cuban Revolution concluded in January 1959, cancelling the 1959 Cuban Grand Prix. The Fangio kidnapping was dramatized in a 1999 Argentine film directed by Alberto Lecchi, Operación Cube den Fangio. Later Life and Death. Fangio attended the 1958 Indianapolis 500 and was offered $20,000 in an attempt to qualify in a Curtis Offie run by car owner George Walther, Jr. Fangio had previously attended the 500 in 1948, which expressed his interest in competing the race. However, he was unable to qualify and Walther allowed for Fangio to stand aside before a contract with British Petroleum came to light, who had not wanted another driver to take over Fangio's position. During the rest of his life after retiring from racing, Fangio sold Mercedes-Benz cars, often driving his former racing cars in demonstration laps. Even before he joined the Mercedes Formula One team, in the mid-1950s, Fangio had acquired the Argentine Mercedes concession. He was appointed president of Mercedes-Benz Argentina in 1974, and its honorary president for life in 1987. At the beginning of the 1980s, Fangio underwent successful bypass surgery to correct a heart condition. He had also been suffering from kidney failure for some time before his death. In 1980, Cunex Foundation granted him the Diamond Cunex Award as the best sportsman of the decade in Argentina. Following his retirement, Fangio was active in assembling automotive memorabilia associated with his racing career. This led to the creation of the Museo Juan Manuel Fangio, which opened in Balcarce in 1986. Fangio was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 1990. He returned to the spotlight in 1994, when he publicly opposed a new province of Buenos Aires law denying driving licenses to those over 80. Denied a renewal of his card, Fangio reportedly challenged traffic bureau personnel to a race between Buenos Aires and seaside Mar del Plata distance, in 2 hours or less, following which an exception was made for the five-time champion. In 1990, Fangio met the three-time world champion, Ayrton Senna, who had genuinely felt the encounter had reflected the mutual affection for both drivers. Juan Manuel Fangio died in Buenos Aires in 1995, at the age of 84. He was buried in his hometown of Balcarce. His pallbearers were his younger brother Ruben Renato, Moss, compatriot racers Jose Copyright Froila N. Gonzalez and Carlos Reutemann, Jackie Stewart and the president of Mercedes-Benz Argentina. Private life. In the early 1950s, Fangio was involved in a road accident when he was forced to swerve to avoid an oncoming truck. The car, a Lancia Aurelia GT, clipped a pole, spinning twice and threw Fangio out, which led him to sustain grazed elbows. One passenger stated the incident was the first time Fangio had been so terrified since the Korean War. Fangio was never married, but was involved in a romantic relationship with Andrea Boeri, whom he broke up with in 1960. They had a son named Oscar Caco Espinosa, who was acknowledged as the unrecognized son of Fangio in 2000. His nephew, Juan Manuel Fangio II, is also a successful racing driver. Legacy. The official Formula One website states of Fangio, many consider him to be the greatest driver of all time. Several highly successful later drivers, such as Jim Clark, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, have been compared with Fangio. However, it is acknowledged that such comparisons are not realistic, since the qualities required for success, the levels of competition, and the rules have changed over time. His record of 5 World Championship titles stood for 45 years, until German driver Michael Schumacher took his 6th title in 2003. Schumacher said, "Fangio is on a level much higher than I see myself. What he did stands alone and what we have achieved is also unique. I have such respect for what he achieved. You can't take a personality like Fangio and compare him with what has happened today. There is not even the slightest comparison. In his home country of Argentina, Fangio is revered as one of the greatest sportsmen the nation has ever produced. Argentines often refer to him as El Maestro, El Mejor, which translates into the master, the best one. The first Michel Vaillant story was partly based on an imaginary conflict stirred up by fictional newspaper The New Indian on Fangio winning the World Championship at the Indy 500. 6 statues of Fangio, sculpted by Catalan artist Joaquim Rosabeta copyright, stand at race venues around the world: Puerto Madero, Buenos Aires, Monte Carlo, Montmeló Cubed, Spain. Now 1/4 Burgring, Germany. Stuttgart Unterta 1/4 Kheim, Germany. And Monza, Italy. An automobile museum was established in Balcarce in 1986, and named the Museo Juan Manuel Fangio. Argentina's largest oil company, Repsol YPF, launched the Fangio XXI gas brand. The Zunder 2005 C12F was named after him in 2005 because of his endorsement. Maserati created a special website in 2007 to commemorate the 50th anniversary of his 5th and final World Championship triumph. A Mercedes-Benz W196R Formula One race car, driven by Fangio in his World Championship qualifying Grand Prix races in 1954 and 1955, was sold for a record $30 million at an auction in England on July 12, 2013. World Championship results: Key, shared drive. A Eurocar ran with streamlined, full-width bodywork. Formula One records: Fangio holds the following Formula One records, notes and references. Bibliography: Donaldson, Gerald. Fangio, The Life Behind the Legend. London, England, Random House. ISBN A978-0-7535-1827-4. Davidson, Donald. Schaffer, Rick. Autocourse, Official History of the Indianapolis 500. Newark, Connecticut, MBI Publishing. ISBN A1-905334-20-6. Jones, Bruce. Hill, Damon. The Ultimate Encyclopedia of Formula One, The Definitive Illustrated Guide to Grand Prix Motor Racing. Carlton Books. ISBN A0-7603-0313-4. External links: Juan Manuel Fangio website, Statistical Analysis of Drivers, 1950 to 2013. Maserati celebrates Fangio, Fangio the greatest race car driver. Juan Manuel Fangio Museum, Amigos de Fangio, Juan Manuel Fangio at the Internet Movie Database.